the last while you've been listening to Behind the Build, and it's been both an integration of architects and technologists and designers, as well as some of the collaborators, engineers, etc., consultants. But what we've recently decided to do was to kind of honor both sides of the coin. So we'll have architectural design, so it'll be Behind the Build AD, and we'll have interior design known as ID. So if you take a look through the catalog as we move forward, what you'll see is Behind the Build AD or Behind the Build ID. And that way you'll know what you're listening to. Is it an interior designer or is it an architect? Is it a consultant in AD or is it a consultant that would be a part of ID? Okay. If you have questions, obviously feel free. You can email me and say, like, why have you made this change, Jonathan? What's wrong with you? Or you could say, you know what? Love the change. I like that you're honoring both now independently. Or do nothing and just pick what you want to choose. That's the beauty of life. You get to choose. I'm just going to give you the content, along with the talented people that I speak with. So with all of that said, let's get into today's. Welcome to Behind the Build. I'm your host, Jonathan Jacobs. Today, I have someone with me that I will introduce in just a moment. Before I do, I'd like for you to, if you can, take a moment. If you're driving, pull over to the side of the road. If you're at your desk, press pause to whatever else you're doing. Please just take a second, give the podcast 5 stars, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, if it's on Spotify, Good Pods, wherever you listen, if it's on YouTube. So with that short and soft plug, I'd like to now take another minute and introduce you to who I've got with me today. Today, I have someone with me from the city of Toronto, grew up in the Prairies.
Largely, yeah.
And reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, having listened to it and known a number of the people that have participated in the podcast. Today, I've got with me Kevin Weiss from Kevin Weiss Architecture and Urbanism.
Weiss Architecture, yeah. And Urbanism.
So, Kevin, thank you for joining. Thank you for participating in this. We connected via email. And I was like, you know what, Kevin? While we've connected on an email, let's go speak in person. Let's talk about your history of architecture.
Oh, yeah. I've been enjoying your podcast and hearing a lot of my colleagues and friends over the last bit. So it's been it's enjoyable to hear stories.
Well, it's now it's their turn to listen to yours.
Yeah. Well, they probably heard them all already. But
before we get into the early chapters, let me tell you about The Doors. One of our go-to window and door companies that we've been working with companies like SMPL Design Studio and Brenda Eisen from Eisen Architecture and Drew Mandel Architects. And honestly, this one ties directly into today's conversation because after hearing a bunch of the sponsor reads over time in the podcast, Kevin reached out to me and I was able to connect him with the company because he was interested in learning more about the doors for an upcoming project. So I connected Kevin and the team, made the introduction, and now he's looking at their product for a vacation home for a client that overlooks an incredible, beautiful lake. The focus on that project is floor-to-ceiling windows, along with a beautiful custom exterior door and sliding systems that suit the setting. One of the biggest benefits I found in working with the doors is that they really cater to the needs of the people they work with. They can share information on the full product offering, but more importantly, they help you align the product selection with what the budget is intended to be on a project. If you're interested in an introduction in the same way that Kevin was, please let me know. I'm happy to connect you because they cover a huge range. Everything from vinyl and fiberglass all the way up to steel, curtain wall, and even curved glass. And they can do pretty much anything with a door. We've seen fiberglass, wood doors, and fully custom metal doors with inlaid glass. Completely custom work, including things like hidden hinges and even Bluetooth integration for locking and unlocking. They do all of it themselves, from estimating their own product to supplying it. They can even cut aluminum in-house with their own machines, and now they've got their own crane for installations. It is a full-service, incredible company to work with. If you want to talk windows and doors or sliding systems for an upcoming project, feel free to email me. I'm happy to connect you with the doors. My email address is Jonathan, that's Jonathan @waldenhomes.ca. For now, let's go back to Kevin. Well, so for those that haven't, so Kevin has been practicing for a number of years. We've kind of touched on it before, saying he grew up in the Prairies, and so let's let's start with that. Let's talk about, as you've heard me talk with others, I like to kind of trail the story back to the beginning and the
Sure.
roots. So what did youth look like for you? Or
So
what kind of person were you?
yeah, no, I think about it a lot because I was born in Medicine Hat, Alberta. The first house I came to after I was born, I wasn't born in the house, but it was in Medicine Hat, and it was this beautiful little 2-story wood clapboard Victorian house.
Okay.
Absolutely stunning. I've been there subsequently. I knocked on the door once a bunch of years ago, and because the prairies are so unbelievably dry, like all that, it's all the original plaster and trim. It's just all immaculate, and everyone who's lived there subsequently have always, I think, really liked the house. But it was a beautiful house. And after that, my father worked at Dominion Glass in Redcliffe, which is just a little town outside of Medicine Hat. So we ended up moving there to a little bungalow, and so those were my earliest years. My father was, I think I don't know if I've instilled some of his drive or whatever, but he was a journeyman machinist, and at some point he just sort of looked at his future and thought, I got to get out of here, this small town. And so we moved to Calgary, and when I was very young, and I think it was a bit of a struggle for them. I never played hockey because I think when I wanted to play hockey, I think I never really realized it, but I think they were, their money was a little short, and hockey's expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm a Canadian who grew up in the prairies who never played hockey. So a bit of an anomaly on that one. But after that, he became, he went into sales. He got into the sales business. And for the longest, well, until he retired, he worked for Rothman Cigarettes, actually.
Okay.
And but we moved. And so from that point on, it was like every 2 years we'd move. He'd be transferred. So I lived on Vancouver Island and in Richmond, BC, and Winnipeg and Calgary, and it was a lot. And growing up that
You
way,
got to see the prairies and
yeah, you get to
West
see the
Coast.
prairies. But I think actually, and we always moved to these new suburbs without trees at the time. I mean, back to Sampson, they're okay, but we always moved to these new houses, and it was really. I mean, I'm happy with my kids that they've only lived in one house ever all their life. And
Right.
I think it's a nice thing. Like, so I have friends who knew their like friends since they were in grade 1 and stuff like that. But we moved a lot. And I think that has a lot to do with my disposition and how I think of architecture, and I mean, coming at it maybe a little negative way, but I really do appreciate being grounded, and I think that's an important part of being. It was really it was tough to move as a kid.
Well, I would imagine you don't have if your parents are working and you're not stable in the same place all the time, you don't have the longevity of your relationships with friends and school and teachers.
That's a big thing. So when we moved to Winnipeg from Vancouver when I was in grade 9,
Yeah.
It's hard to believe, but I played lacrosse. Excuse me, I played lacrosse and soccer out west, a little bit of lacrosse. But I get to Winnipeg, and lacrosse was unknown, and Winnipeg, hockey and football town. That's what they do. So I'm in grade 9, and I was quite good at soccer, but it really was non-existent then. And so I actually started running track, and so that was my life in Winnipeg as high school. I spent all my time running and training 1,500 meters. And what's kind of significant about that is that when it came time to think about what I was going to do for university, I immediately thought I'd be a phys ed teacher. I didn't grow up. I never had this I wasn't 4 years old thinking I wanted to be an architect or anything. I had no. I mean, I always drew and all that kind of stuff, but I had no sort of ambition to do that. I'm in Winnipeg, and at the time, the the phys ed degree, there was you had to take biology,
Okay.
and there was in the university program. One of the things they did was they dissected a human cadaver,
Okay.
and there was no way I was going to do that. I stopped taking biology in grade 10 or whatever, like as long as I had to, and
Yeah.
I was not. I think dissecting some cow eyeball or something like that, and I can't do that stuff. So the idea of going to phys ed at U of M, I mean, I don't know if other program, I mean, it was just 18 years old or whatever. I just, it was off the table. So I thought I'd go and apply to the Red River Community College and take graphic arts. And my parents encouraged me to go into, get a university degree. So, so that's how I sort of came to architecture. Like I thought, what's the closest thing in university that's to like drawing pictures? So I started in Manitoba.
So wait, before you go there, because you referenced loosely, really quickly before that you had been drawing a little bit as a kid.
Yeah.
What were you drawing?
Well, because my mother will probably listen to this, and I can't lie. I drew a lot of Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
Mickey Mouse characters, but I draw things. I mean, I enjoy taking art in school. Like I like printmaking, and even actually quite recently I did a lithography workshop at Open Studio, because I still like printmaking. I wish I did more of it, but so I like that kind of stuff. I had a silkscreen kit that I did silk screens at home and all that kind of stuff. So it was but hence I wanted to go do graphic arts, but yeah. So I ended up in architecture school.
Okay.
But I was still running competitively. But Tom Bazai, who you had on the show a while ago, is a friend of mine, and we didn't know each other. But I don't think you mentioned this in your podcast, but he too ran 1500s in the Prairies.
Who?
Tom Bazai.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we have mutual friends. Like he was very good friends with my high school nemesis in track, who a guy named Buddy Voth, who's in Texas. But he was good friends, but he was my nemesis, and it was only finally in grade 12, which was the last year in Manitoba for high school, that I beat Buddy in the high school provincial. So, but him and Tom
Take that, buddy.
I know, take that, buddy. I think about that all the time. And but yeah, so
Tom Bazai and here's a little send-off gift.
We figure, I don't know, I figure we might have, Tom and I actually might have raced each other and announced to each other at some point even. Anyways, I get into university and I was still running track. So I was running for the university team, and I was in architecture and this program, and it was, well, I had the director, or the head of the year in the architecture school would say to me, Kevin, if you want to be serious about architecture, you're going to have to this track stuff is taking up too much of your time. And then the coach of the team would say, Kevin, if you want to get serious about architecture school, I'm sorry, if you want to get serious about track,
yeah,
this architecture school stuff is really getting in the way.
I gotta say this in the middle of this right now. I have this vision of the Seinfeld episode. Do you remember the one I'm referring to, about where Jerry had said that he had beat this other guy in school?
Oh yes. And they have a race, and
so they have a race as adults.
Yes. I do remember that one. Yeah, that is a very funny one. I mean, I don't know where Tom, I think, keeps in touch with him a little bit. I know he's down south, but I'm old and no knees left. And anyways,
from all the winning.
From all the winning.
Yeah.
And
sorry. Okay, I digress. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
I digress a lot. So I have this conflict, and I and my girlfriend leaves me at the time, because it's too much time doing both. But I end up saying, that's it. I quit architecture school, and I went and I worked in the Eaton's warehouse in Winnipeg for a year, I think.
Okay.
So, and putting bands around boxes and stuff like that. And I realized that that wasn't a good lifelong career for myself. And then I reapplied, but to come here. So I came here and I went to OCA, which is now OCAD, and they had an environmental design program which I took for a little bit, and then I
Had you moved here at that time? This is by yourself
yeah,
for
it's just
school,
not just for school, yeah.
and your parents are still living.
Well, they were living in Winnipeg at the time,
Okay,
but when I came here, they moved to Calgary,
they moved to Calgary.
back to Alberta, yeah.
Okay, and
But
did you know other people here in Toronto?
my older sister was here,
Okay,
but no, no.
okay,
No, I'm still very good friends with a friend, Eden Robbins, a great photographer who he was at Ryerson at the time. Our sisters were friends. We were introduced, and we're still good friends.
okay.
But yeah, no, I knew no one, and I just came here and I lived in this. It was like rent and spaces were hard to find then too, and I lived in this crappy little apartment on Broadview at Danforth, and in this tiny little room with a built-in bed, and it was disgusting, and no amenity space except for the kitchen, but that's where I lived, and I went to OCAD, but then OCA at the time, and but then halfway through the year, I don't know. I think I got smart and I walked over to U of T, the Faculty of Architecture, and I transferred over there.
And
And
what year would you have transferred there?
I went. They gave me a whole year. Like I quit in Manitoba like just after first year, so I was
Okay,
into second year,
okay,
and they gave me the whole year credit, but I just wanted to get out of there. At OCA, and so I just went in halfway through first year in U of T, and I'm really happy I did
right,
because that was a year that Barry Sampson who was fantastic educator, architect, and it was great. So that I've told my own kids this, like when they complain about professors and how stupid they are and all that kind of stuff, because as kids do. But I said, you're going to go through your education career, and there's going to be one, two, maybe three people, professors or instructors, who are incredible, and they'll stay with you forever. And the rest, who cares? But Barry was definitely one of these people who has certainly been very influential on a lot of people. And he passed away a couple of years ago now, I guess. And it was great. And the first year, last review, Barry said to me, he said, "Kevin, you really disappointed me." And coming from Barry, that was like, if it came from someone else, I wouldn't have really cared. Like all my education career, like in architecture school, my grades would go from C to A. Like they'd go back to, because I was always looking for trouble or
right.
something like that. But for coming from Barry, it hit me. I mean, and I spent that summer reading and getting serious about architecture, and but yeah, he really disappointed me.
Sometimes, I mean, sometimes you need to hear it, right?
Yeah, no, it was good, and I and that year, in first year, there was you had fantastic. I mean, when I'm thinking about speaking to you, one of the things I can say is that I've been pretty blessed with people I've worked for and have been mentors. Like, so Barry, I ended up working with Barry at one point on the Butterfly Conservatory, and John Newart, his partner, was a classmate of mine, and that was and seeing Barry actually working, like getting he had a very messy and graphite filled drafting table, but just his working methodology was really quite amazing. When first year, also I had Ian MacDonald was one of our instructors, who I spent a long time working with. I learned a lot from Ian about detailing. I don't know if you know Ian's work, but it's immaculate and precise and well considered. And I learned that from Ian for sure. And I worked with him a couple of times. And I was always, when I was working with Ian, the recession was going on, and I would, you know, yeah, I'd lay myself off quite a bit and do a competition here and there.
Right.
But at one point, because he was very good friends with Barry, I got borrowed out. I got borrowed out to Barrett Sampson. Well, it's Barrett Sampson newer now, but at the time it was Barrett Sampson, to work on the Butterfly Conservatory, which was great. It was a great experience working with Barry, as I said, and John Newart, and and then after that, I thought I would like to work on some bigger projects. So I think I just called Don Schmidt, and I don't remember interviewing or anything, but I called him, and so I spent a bunch of time at Diamond Schmidt working with Don mostly. The office when I was there was fair. I was interested in the office. I quite liked at the time the York University Student Center, which I thought was which a building that Jack Diamond had done, and I thought it was a. I mean, I still do think it's I mean, it spoke a lot about Jack's mentality of like a very. I mean, a lot of Toronto architecture is kind of, in my opinion, like. I mean, it's better now, but the little bits of parts of like little PC things and stuff like that, and you know, a tower, and this is kind of height of postmodernism modernism. But that student center is just a staunch, kind of rough kind of building. It's just a building, you know, a building within kind of the set of the campus. And I liked it, and that's what attracted me there. I didn't really know Don too much, but I went there, and you know, it's the first week of work kind of thing. And you know, you're always a little bit what's it, like nervous,
Yeah.
and shy, and
Introverted.
yes, and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And Jack had a huge personality. Jack said, oh, and the project I was supposed to be working on, that Don was going to have me working on, hadn't quite started yet. So I was there in this new office in limbo a little bit. And Jack says, Kevin, you know, I hear you have a good hand. Like, this is days of drawing by hand.
Yeah.
And they were competing for the foreign ministry in Israel at the time, where the competition was going on. And he asked me to set up on watercolor paper, which is very bumpy because for the paint,
Yeah.
some elevations, like basically kind of trace elevations that were already designed, but because he wanted to do watercolors on these things. So first days there, Jack Diamond standing over me, and I'm sweating profusely with graphite on bumpy. And I did a shitty job. I think it's probably all smudgy, and I never really worked with him after that, because all the projects I did was with Don. And I mean, I like them both, but Don. So Don has been a great, significant person in my life in terms of like learning about the business. I'm not saying I have. Figured it all out like he has or anything, but just his passion and architecture, kind of the big picture of it.
Yeah.
And so I've been really lucky with you know, in my early years, and with people I've worked with, and I am, you know, really quite appreciative of that.
So you were Baird Sampson, and then you joined Diamond Schmidt at that time. And so, how long were the stints at either one of those?
Yeah, that's a good question. There was always a joke at Diamond Schmidt that people worked there multiple times. So that was me. So I was with Ian MacDonald for a bunch of years.
Oh, at Ian's office.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Early years, and so spent a bunch of time with him. I actually met. I mean, I knew because he instructed us, but I met Ian because during the recession, I bought a hammer, basically, and called myself a contractor. And with a couple of other people, we were building fences and decks and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And just, you know, living hand to mouth. It was not a pleasant time, really. But I ended up doing a bar on College Street called Lola's Lounge. But it was a design build. Like, I built the bar and all that kind of stuff. But it was a bit of a funny place where beer was cheap. But I because it was a A2 occupancy, it was an assembly occupancy. I was getting a permit, but I had to hire an architect. Like they needed an architect for
Yeah.
an A2 occupancy.
Yeah.
So I lived in on the west side of the city, and I knew Ian kind of, who was an instructor, lived down the street, and I knocked on his door and said, and so I ended up, you know, hiring him sort of and doing the drawings. Like he oversaw it and stuff like that, and that's how Ian and I started working. Well, I started working with Ian, and so I worked with Ian for a bunch of years. Got bored out. Then I went, as I said, to Diamond Schmidt. And at one point, Ian and I think had a few drinks one night, and I decided I was going to go back.
Okay.
And then I was there a little bit longer, and then maybe a couple of drinks with Don Schmidt. I don't know, but I ended up back at Diamond Schmidt. So I went back and forth. I've never twice to both of those offices.
And do you recall what the projects were like when you were at Diamond Schmidt?
Well, when I started at Diamond Schmidt, Jack, I mean, they had, the office was not as huge as it is now. I think there was maybe 20, 30 people there or something like that. I don't quite remember. But the office it was interesting. Like Jack was doing some really large projects. Like he had already done the Jerusalem City Hall project, and where they were, as I said, competing for the foreign embassy.
Yep.
And but Don, there was a lot of I mean, now for them, kind of smaller projects. Like the first project I worked on with Don was Autonomy College at Trent University, which was a pretty extensive renovation and reskinning of an old Macy Dubois 19. Well, I think 70s. Like it was sort of like it was one of the later first generation buildings at Trent University, where
Okay.
the Tom ones were all kind of quite spectacular, and the later ones you could see budgets weren't as big and stuff. So that's what I worked on. But Don, and then a renovation at Western University of an old John Andrews building. So there were a lot of like kind of institutional, like fairly good size. I mean, I'd love to have those kind of projects now, renovations and reconfigurations of institutional buildings.
Right.
And Don was doing like tons of them, and Jack was doing these like, kind of big buildings and stuff like that. So that was kind of the nature of it the first time. And then by the time I got back, I mean, one of the things that attracted me to come back, and it was Don, so what attracted me to come back was that they had just got the Detroit Symphony Hall project, which was a big addition to the existing Heritage Hall, a very beautiful and acoustically superb hall. And so I worked on that for a bunch of years when I came back to Diamond Schmidt, and it was quite a fantastic project to work on. So the office had grown, and it just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow.
At Diamond Schmidt.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it went from an office. I mean, before, I mean, as I said, I don't quite remember how many people were there, but it was smallish, but not small. And but now now they're quite large. I mean, and I have friends who are still there, and it's interesting. But I think I eventually. So the next part of my life is we're out for dinner with some friends, and we're talking, and at dinner I said, I'm thinking of going back to school to do that the urban design program at U of T, which was brand new. Like so I ended up going. It was the first year of the program with the director at the time was someone quite great. He's now the dean of the University of Miami Architecture School. But I was interested in him, but also thinking that I could go and do a master's degree without leaving town.
Right.
And when I got home, I got in a lot of trouble from my wife, who said, we're at dinner, you say you're thinking about going back to school. Shouldn't we talk about this? And I said, well, I was just saying what was on my mind at the time. Like I hadn't really.
Why am I getting in trouble?
Like I just said that. I just at that dinner, I just had this thought that I am thinking about it. Anyway, so I did that program, the first year of the program at U. I quit a great job at Diamond Schmidt. I went and I did this urban design degree and kind of worked on the side, like just private projects and stuff like that. And then after I finished, Don, well, was not overly happy, but I quit and I when I finished the degree, I literally rented a studio space and I sat there for a few weeks, like wondering what I'm going to do, and so I've been going since basically, and I think I left Diamond Schmidt. I mean, I'm not that kind of. I mean, I there's times I miss kind of the largeness I mean, the projects are fantastic and the clients are fantastic and I sometimes miss it just a little bit, but I think I don't love I don't like the I mean I'm not corporate and I don't really feel comfortable in that environment.
Right. Yeah.
And we talked about it a little bit earlier over lunch, but so it's so now, like, I think ultimately I have been pretty lucky to, like, my parents aren't developers. I'm not super connected, but I think it's been just grunt work basically.
Oh, resilient
Grunt work and supportive wife for sure.
That idea of grit, family support, and the long game actually reminds me of all these conversations I have with Robert Kaplan, the owner of Kaplan's. Because Kaplan's is one of those rare, genuinely multi-generational companies, now over 80 years in. And even today, you've got the current generation working together under the same roof. And what stands out is how much of that shows up in the way they support their people. Investing in staff, creating education and opportunity for growth, and building a culture that feels steady, consistent, and earned. So yeah, it's not just an appliance store. They're deeply connected to the design and build community. Yes, okay, they supply beautiful appliances just as importantly. And they have the best brands. They've got Sub-Zero, Wolf, Miele, La Corneau, Fisher-Paykel, Genair, and more. But just as importantly, they've helped create a real sense of trust and community around the work. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens through years of showing up, doing the work, and taking care of your team and your clients. And when you zoom out, it's hard not to connect that to the heart of the home, the kitchen. Especially heading into the holiday season, family meals, people gathering, conversations happening while someone's cooking, the aromas of when you walk through the front door, the memories that those smells can create, it all happens in the kitchen. It's where life actually happens. And Kaplan supports the entire chain, their families, the staff, the design community, and ultimately your family at home. So if you want to learn more about Kaplan's or if you want an introduction, email me. We've worked with them for years, and obviously you can hear, like, I love them. But for now, I think it's important to hear more from Kevin. And I mean, I'm sure everyone's got the self-doubt, but also it's a lot of belief that you can do it.
Yeah, I don't have that. I mean, it is. I think I probably started more. I don't know if it was like. I don't know. I don't know if I was that thoughtful. I don't know. I just did it. I didn't really think about it a lot.
Sure. I mean, I guess I say it because most, if not almost all the people that sit in the chair that you're sitting in right now, they're all entrepreneurs who had some level of belief in what they want to do, and they've been doing it, most of them, a long time. I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it surprises me of the yeah. I mean, and I think and it takes so I ended up when I ended up in a partnership with at Larkin Architect with Roberto Chiatti and John Reynolds, and there were three partners in the office. It was interesting, and I think we did some nice work with like St. Gabriel's Parish and Kingsway College School and the Regis College. We did some very nice work, and it was interesting when I left and started Weiss Architecture and Urbanism. It was interesting because I remember having written a proposal for a city job, a project for the city, and being shortlisted and interviewed. going to this interview, and they said, or being debriefed maybe or something like that. And the debriefing was, your office is very young, you haven't been around. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, these are projects that I have done. These are the projects that my stamp is on.
Yep.
And being very frustrated with that. It was almost like starting from
Nothing.
ground zero again. And I'm thinking, like if you're a brain surgeon and you worked at some hospital and you go to another hospital, it's not like they're going to make you be an orderly.
Well, I mean, here they might.
Yeah, they might. So the conservatism of this city is quite astonishing sometimes. And I think, there's little, like some projects that I think, that big, A-list firms get, projects that I think, why don't they just like have a competition, or that my colleagues, like there's so many firms, like a lot of the people you've interviewed with, who would excel at them, like they'd be fantastic. But the conservatism of business in this, it's been we're fortunate, our jobs are starting to get bigger, and we do a lot of school projects and stuff like that, and it's been a lot of work though, like building that up.
I believe that.
Yeah.
So what year did you find your practice?
Weiss architecture. I think our certificate of practice is from 2012.
Okay.
That might be my license, but I think it's 2012. I don't quite remember.
So congratulations, you've now reached teenagehood.
Yeah. So I mean, previous that, I was on with Larkin Architect. I was, obviously was part of that certificate of practice, but I didn't become an architect for a very long time. Like
Why?
Well, I was working with MacDonald at the time, and maybe it was the time I was off, because I would do that because of the recession and all that stuff. And I started writing my exams.
Okay.
And this is before the NCARB, this is before free trade, and before the more recent exact exam.
Yeah.
And I started it, and so it was all at the OAA, but I was literally living hand to mouth. Like, it was, I built a fence and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Have a bag of groceries in a month after, pay other helpers and stuff. It was tough times. And a close friend passed away just before I wrote the exam. And I called the OAA and I said, look, I'm not in any state to write this thing. And they said, okay. And I said, can I get my fee back? And they said no. and I
God bless them.
It was like it was just like, and it kind of cheesed me off. And so I wasn't even an intern or anything for years and years and years. And then I worked at Diamond Schmidt, and there was no reason to be licensed when I was there. Like, so it wasn't anything motivating to do it. But then the partnership agreement or, prospect happened at Larkin Architect, and Roberto was a licensed architect, and John is well, they're both retired now, but was a technician. And you have to have architects have to controlling shares. So there was no room other than Roberto's shares to become a partner at the office. So that kind of motivated me. So I wrote the first year of the exact exam.
Okay.
And then so that was that.
And so at the time when you did this, did it feel like you had finally, because I feel some people also don't feel the need, but then when they've done it, they feel like they've gone and accomplished something that has been something that was somewhat evasive over years.
Yeah.
No?
I mean, it was business, and certainly I would recommend it because it's, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing without it. So yeah. So I've been at it for a long time. So my first solo company was I didn't have a license. I was doing residential stuff,
right? And
you didn't need it. It was even before PCIN, so you didn't do it. It's probably operating a little stupidly.
So what was the first projects like? What were they for your practice
in 2012?
Yeah.
Well, I had developed the school board.
Okay.
So I had quickly written proposals with them, and yeah, there was a bunch. It was time of all the full day kindergarten
Okay.
development, so there was tons of projects. I had done a couple at Larkin, and there was this big proposal call for a bunch more of them because they were being funded. And so this is in the days of when you wrote proposals, you had to like print off like 20 copies and run them to like someplace and drop them like through traffic and
Get
drop
them
them up and
bound.
down and get them down. And
And sometimes throw that little plastic sheet over the front.
yes, and well, we still have it in the office. I have a one of those spiral binding
Yeah.
machines and stuff like that.
Yeah, for
Uh,
anyone that is unfamiliar with what we're talking about, too
Surlux or
too bad.
Viro, yeah, too bad, yeah. Yeah, like I remember why. Like I remember being at Diamond Schmidt and Don putting in proposals, and his concentrated like ego, like just himself doing the writing these proposals to get in, and doing the Surlux or Wiro binding himself, and like just the intensity
It
of it.
mattered.
It mattered,
Yeah.
yeah. And so write this proposal. I have a good relationship with the school board. They know I'm small. We write this proposal. I'm up all night writing proposals because that's when you do it.
The reason that Kevin just laughed is because we were initially going to have this conversation a couple days ago, and there was a proposal deadline that I needed to focus on, so we moved the date.
Yes. So I write this proposal, and it looks nice, and I'm feeling confident about it. I have a good relationship with them, and I'm tired, and I go home, and I'm resting, and everything. I don't know why it's always 2 o'clock. It's the magic time where proposals always have to be in for everyone, but 2 o'clock, and it's probably like 2:10, and I open up the proposal, and I look, and I'm reading it. It's all sharp. It looks good, and then I get to the fee schedule page, which was like a PDF thing, but printed, and it's blank. There's no numbers. It's like, and I go like I call my colleague at the office, said what's going on, and because we I don't know if we printed them. We actually sent these out for printing, and I said what's going on, because like anyways, like I guess you can turn off or on like marks on PDFs, and it somehow got turned off. So we submitted this proposal with no schedule of values, and projects that I was kind of banking. I had been already frying the chickens, like I all my eggs were there, and like all the bad mixed metaphors I'm using right there.
Yeah.
And I called them. I called the school board. I called the purchasing guys, and I said this is a mistake. I had a letter. I had a note from the printer saying that it was their mistake, and but no, I have I think 16 proposals still in my office from that thing, and it was
that's
it was
brutal.
it was brutal, because I actually did have to let someone go because they didn't come through, and yeah, no, but and then it's just been a slow incline ever since.
And so, what you say TSP, and I know that when over the course of lunch, for those that are unaware, so Kevin's been working with the school board for a long time. So, what are some of your favorite spaces to work on within
With the school board?
Yeah.
Well, we just finished a pretty cool project, McKee Public School at second floor addition.
Yeah.
But it was the ministry was pushing on school lots of talk of a modular construction.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a hybrid. So this was kind of pushed on them, but it's a hybrid in situ and modular construction. And it was interesting. It was an interesting project because it was technically fairly difficult, because it's an addition on the second floor, and it had two new stair towers and built. And I mean, the purpose for the project or the modularity of it was really, and we said this from the start of the to the clients, that it wasn't going to be cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of kind of mythology of modular buildings being this kind of cheap way to build, but it was really to shorten the on-site construction schedule.
Right.
It was an occupied school. There's no
Right.
kids, and the disruption is huge. So that project is pretty interesting and was, I think, highly successful. With another kind of cool project we did is we do a lot of interior like renovations, and we were my oldest son was at Western Tech at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and anyways, we did, and this was during COVID. This was a COVID project, but we were hired to renovate the science labs, and they
Okay.
were very like maybe 70s. So Andrew in my office, who's fantastic, we're you're doing on-site investigation, and this is ugly 1970s old falling apart. Like my son used to complain about getting splinters
Yeah.
on the desks and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But Andrew's there, like, doing an on-site investigation, and he pops the ugly ceiling tiles up, and there's this huge, beautiful vaulted ceiling, huge, and this art, like this leaded glass
No
window,
way.
spectacular, and in pretty good shape. And so we had, and the project manager at TDSB was quite fantastic and got keen on it. So we ended up opening this up, like doing these science lab renovations, which are heavy mechanical laden stuff. So
Yeah.
figuring out where to put these big ducts stuff out of way, but kind of restoring that room. It used to be, it's central to it's the third floor and central to it's on and it's center. So it's got this big arched window.
Mm-hmm.
It was the old technical library of the school, so it was kind of an
Cool.
honorific kind of
Yeah.
part of the school,
Yeah.
and which was just kind of over. But we restored this kind of space, and it's quite spectacular. Like it was nice, and that kind of stuff is. So we do. I mean, our work, like it's very varied. Like we'll do everything from waterproofing projects to these kind of things, and we're always
Interesting.
looking for this architecture. I mean, I'm interested in like I like working in the public realm. We do, we have always like probably a house or a cottage on the tables.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not really tables anymore, but in the works.
No, I mean it's on the table. The computer's on the table.
Well, my computer's on the table, yeah, and. And so, yeah, so it's quite, our work is very varied. Like it's huge for everything from kind of like highly technical, like kind of waterproofing projects to, we were one of the projects, which is quite funny. The kids climb things,
Mm-hmm.
and the schools have problems. It was an anti-climbing project.
Anti-climbing.
Yeah, there was this, it was a pretty ugly, not looking nice school, but they had a very low,
Like a nap center.
they had a really low boiler room
Okay.
that you could easily kind of climb up on, and then from that they get up onto the roof. So they had kids on roof problems and other people on roof problems. So the assignment was to like basically build a fence around this thing, and you just think, okay, it's just sort of an opportunity. So anyways, this became we use the yellow fiberglass tubes that are used in like industrial kind of places,
Okay.
and made this kind of undulating fence. Like and it's pretty sculptural and it's quite. But it's those kind of things where you can take an engineering perspective
Mm-hmm.
on it and say, blah blah blah, and put something where kids can't climb, or you look for the opportunity to do
Something a little more meaningful.
little meaningful, little
Playful.
little playful,
Yeah.
and I think I we're trying to. I mean, I like that the idea of being more playful. I mean, we have we've kind of purposefully been trying to be more playful.
Right.
We did a house fairly recently for a writer, Jennifer Bain, who is and her husband Rick Mackenzie, and Jennifer is a travel writer,
Mm-hmm.
and Rick recently, well, during the course of the project, actually sold his bison ranch in southern Alberta, and Jennifer is a completely vibrant kind of person, And it was like, I like, she was huge fun to work with because she has a huge personality. And I very much, I mean, that, to me, when you're doing residential stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that to me is critical. Like that you have an engaged client, and and their personality comes out as much as like any stylistic kind of obsessions that I
Yeah.
have.
And decisive.
And well, decisive. This decision making is good because it helps you get a project done. But
Yeah.
but I think it's really important. I mean, to have, especially in residential stuff, to have clients who are engaged. I did. We did these houses once. There was a fire, bad 6 row houses, 6 or 7 row houses burnt
Mm-hmm.
down. And we did a house, the one on the end, on the corner, we did a house for an artist, Sylvie Balaget. And she hired us at first.
Okay.
And this house, and because it was the fire had started at her attached neighbor, she had a little bit extra land. She wanted a detached house. And we built her this house. And Sylvie was like a very strong, like the house became, I mean, it was really a house for her and her husband. It was quite great that way.
Yeah.
But I ended up doing 3 of the other houses, which were kind of more like they were just going to be spec houses. And one of them, in fact, was owned by TD Bank because there was a mortgage foreclosure and stuff like that. And I found that they were really, so we didn't really have clients.
So how does TD find you in that scenario?
Well, they did. Well, so all these houses are attached.
Okay.
Big fire.
Yeah.
No, everyone. So different. Every owner had a different insurance company and an adjuster. They had one of the houses had gone through this foreclosure. Plus, also earlier there had been a insurance fraud on it, so there was investigations. So it wasn't even the TD Capital Group or anything. It was TD's fraud group,
Right.
that kind of was in control.
Yeah,
of
some affiliate.
But you have all these houses; they're all attached.
Yeah.
Sylvie was the first one to hire an architect to get on with the project, but she's attached to all these things. And so in the city of Toronto, in order to get a building permit, you can't tear down. To get a demolition permit, you have to have a building permit.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it separately. All the people who were attached, they were kind of like a little bit behind the 8 ball, and they didn't have an architect. They didn't have
Right.
And so in order for Sylvie to build, we had to do demolition. And in order to get demolition, all these other guys had to get all their stuff on. So it was a bit of a mess.
Interesting. Okay.
But we wrote, I mean, with our engineer, we wrote a nice letter to the city that said, I mean, these houses were gutted. And then there was some insurance company saying, well, it's just a renovation, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they were gutted. It was in the middle of the winter. It was like January 15th or something like that. It was like a 5-barrel fire. There was, swimming pools of water dumped on all the houses. And it was awful.
And that image is intense. And it's a reminder that water is either a problem and like a real problem or a pleasure, depending on how it's managed. Because when water is designed properly and not accidentally, when the systems are right and the details are right and the execution is right, well, then you can have a pool and it stops being something you worry about and becomes something you actually enjoy. And that's what we love about Aquanta pools. They bring a level of care and control to pool projects that makes the experience feel clear, dependable, and well run from the start. Not unintentional like having water in your basement. And a pool is one of those parts of a home that can create real connection, family time, hosting, summer weekends, and those quiet moments that genuinely feel like you're on a vacation in your own backyard. But only when planning and the build are handled properly, and that's why we like working with Aquanta. So if you're thinking about a pool project, I mean, I would recommend looking at Aquanta. It's aquanta.ca. I'm happy to connect you with their team to learn more. Just email me. But for now, let's go back to Kevin. Oh, no, wait, hold on. The email address, right? It's Jonathan, JONATHAN at waldenhomes.ca. Okay, yeah. Now let's go back to Kevin.
And, and probably as much water damage or more water damage than fire damage.
Mm-hmm.
anyways, we were frustrated, but eventually we had the structural engineer come out and do an assessment and said these houses are, in winter's coming up with more snow load, there could be imminent collapse. And I just wrote a letter and said, city, you've been told,
Yeah.
like, this is not our responsibility.
Right.
And about 3 days later, we had a demolition permit. All the other owners agreed to demolish,
Crazy.
so we could go on. Yeah, no, it was a little bit insane. But the houses that we did, the 3 other houses, they were all kind of on speculative. So they were with a client,
Hmm.
and I really didn't enjoy that. Like it was like it was my own. I live in a Victorian house, and I know all the things that drive me nuts about it.
Hmm.
And so, but it no, it was not. I mean, I did not enjoy doing it, but it was not to have someone engaged
Right.
about it. Is, I mean, that so I really quite like clients who are a little intense and engaged and have their opinions, and like, I think our work, especially on that side of things, kind of demonstrates that we don't do the same details
So
over and over again.
So when you talk about that, what is it that you enjoy in architecture typologies? What do you prefer? Modern? Do you prefer classical? Do you prefer contemporary? What's your preference?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I mean, the houses. I mean, I love brick.
Okay.
I mean, I came from a time of education where, I mean, it was the height of postmodernity. So when we were students, like, every project had a historical precedent,
Right.
and I still, I mean, that's pretty ingrained into me, I
Yeah.
think. So I am not. I appreciate it and all stuff, but I have been interested in Victorian Toronto because, I mean, downtown. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
kind of what you're dealing with, and all the limitations and of kind of that, which is genetic with the long narrow lots,
Yep.
which, light access to light and air is always like a challenge. And so but I am interested in, I mean, in a way, when you're working in a downtown Victorian lot, I mean, the genetic code is kind of already there. Like, you're not going to make a big white house because you can't. And so the problems of vertical circulation, getting the where the location of the stair and all that kind of stuff, that it's almost encoded, like it's there so much deep. I do. I mean, I think I take a position of. I mean, I like modern architecture, but I also like. I think. I mean, the houses, we like the Shudo house for Jennifer, that we did, a beautiful house on Russet. I mean, I think they're. I mean, they don't not look like an architect did it, but they're not. They're not,
They don't feel like it.
no. And I also, I always think, I find it also odd too. Like, I even with condos, like this whole city, I think this city would be a great location for a remake of Hitchcock's Rear Window, because the amount of glass and exposure from condo to condo. I always thought it'd be great to make a marketing company that would buy the back of people's couches, that would say, like, title the dealership, because everyone stuffs their furniture right to the edge of the glass, and that's what you see, or the back of some IKEA shelf.
Yeah.
Like this.
Or IKEA blinds.
Yeah. And the blinds are always full, and I always, I find that kind of big picture glass window in, which you see a lot, these modern houses, to be problematic.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of making a big giant glass? Like, you have a beautiful rear door that's all glass, that's quite admirable, and that's perfect, but put that on the front of the house. Like, you can't walk around in your underwear.
There's a renovation that happened around the corner from us where someone put in, like, pretty much a floor to ceiling front window, and it's wide.
Yeah.
And it's always the shade's always drawn. So what did you spend the money on the opening for?
Yeah.
What did you spend the money on the glass for?
Why?
I
don't. It's something I don't understand. I mean, at the Shudo house, when we went to committee of adjustment, there was a masonry little courtyard in front.
Yep.
because we do have floor ceiling glass there. It's inset a little bit, but but the committee made us take it off. And I always think, I mean, there's no planting there and stuff like that, but I always, like when the house was being constructed, I mean, Rick was quite taken aback of how exposed he was. And I said, you got to plant some cedar hedges or something like that. Right? Like, but they had taken that kind of, that off, and which was kind of annoying, but yeah. I think I do like the history of the context is of interest, and I do love modern architecture, but I think I don't know if it's also because I'm infatuated with Victorian brickwork.
Right.
With Shudo, there's this huge it's called diapering, the big triangles of pattern brick. And back, if you're a Victorian mason, you're building a masonry building. Like you're the first. After the foundations, and you're the first people there. You're putting up this wall.
Yep.
At Shudo, it's a wood frame house, and it was interesting because I mean we really detailed it. Like we drew every brick because it has this intricate pattern. So we drew every brick, but the framers were there first. So you basically build this wood frame with these window openings and then the masons come and then they kind of shell over top of it.
Mm-hmm.
The framers, there was this young kid who would give me heck all the time. I didn't swear. That's good. But he was so audacious. But he would give me I'd come to site and he'd tell me how I should be dimensioning drawings, but they were so precise. They did such an amazing job on the framing. Like we did great drawings,
yeah.
But they were so precise because all this kind of intricate stuff, and it's out, with full courses of brick and no cutting. And it was remarkable. But he was so funny. I was getting heck from him. And then when the Masons came, there was two sets of Masons, but the first guys was started off. He was this interesting Russian guy, and he was really into it. And I came one day, and his tools were just on site. Like there was a bin of mortar, and his tools were like he just left all of a sudden. It was unfortunate. His father passed away, and then his mother passed away a couple of weeks later, and so he was gone, and
Wow.
That was quite sad. But people took over the job, and it was a kind of job. I've experienced this before, where at first the Masons are saying, "This is going to be really hard and difficult," but I think when they got onto the site, they appreciated like kind of the respect to the trade. Yeah, and it was thought out, and I know in fact that that's what I just said about the house being that frame, right? It was off, I think 3/4 of an inch or something like that, but the discussions with the mason were like, so the house just like you can't ever perceive it, but they figured out how to like taper up the sides just ever a little bit so that they'd have all the full coursing at the top, and it's all that kind of stuff. And we did a little washroom building for the city of Toronto at Humberline, and that was a really nice brick building too, and it was sort of the same there. Like the masons at first kind of complained about the detailing, but then they're right into it. And it's beautiful.
It's funny how that works. I mean, when I was doing my own renovation here, we're working with masons and brick all the time and stone. But when we were demolishing for the addition on my house here, we categorized all the brick because I wanted to repurpose the brick for the new openings and for fill-ins, and so we used like what we would classify as A1 brick. And it would go in all of the eye level areas.
Right.
And the mason spent a lot of time working on the mortar mixture
to get the color
right, so that when it slowly faded over the first couple of years, it would match the previous fade from my house in 1948. So yeah, there's that craftsmanship.
There's nothing that makes me happier than being on site and the work people know more than you about their thing.
They should.
Well, they should. They know more than you, and they take pride in their craft. Like
Yeah.
I think that's to me, working at Diamond Schmidt, where there's the kind of level of contracting and contractors is like high level and fantastic. We work on projects, unfortunately, like in the public sphere that are kind of smaller, and
Yeah.
the level of contracting generally is, I mean, it's disappointing to me in terms of what I was used to, but I also think there's a bit of a slippage in kind of mentality, contracting
Yes.
mentality, in the last decade or so. But when you do have someone engaged and who take pride of their things, then it's great.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
we went at McKee, this school. I mean, the contractors were pretty great. I'm happy with them. They're working more with them right now too, and there is a level of as I say, I mean, just a bit of pride in the work.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's everything. Like it's a real, to me, I can do really beautiful drawings, and we do good drawings and very concise. But that's only half of it.
Yeah. Yeah. The consultants are the ones that bring it home, right?
Yeah, and the contractors.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
I call them consultants because in some capacity, when you're working with the right people, they are actually helping consult on how to be able to achieve what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think you can always, unless you've done everything. I don't think that you can detail everything.
No,
it's too hard. So when you have those site meetings with them, and they act as that consultant, that's I think.
Well, when teamwork is happening, it's great.
Yeah,
it's great. I think that's for me. I mean, the stress. I think as I get older, I like my office is, and I've always had this ability. I mean, the other thing in my my professional education, when I was at Ian MacDonald's office, when I was at Diamond Schmidt,
yeah,
like the office was small enough. I did the drawings, and then I was on site. So like if you messed up your drawings or they're vague or whatever,
yeah.
then
you're the one hearing it.
You hear it, and you learn quickly about what you think you're drawing and what the contractor is understanding, and you understand about like real world tolerances, and you learn that quickly. And even back in recession days when I was pretending to be a contractor and doing things, like you learn a lot. Like you learn, like I think, and I've all, like at every office I ever worked at, I had that experience, and that's our we do that. So people in like I have right now just a couple of people who are full time in the office, and the projects they work on, they're on site,
right.
So they know, because the decision making continues. Like you need to know the project.
Yeah. How many people in your office?
There's Andrew Art, who's been with me a bunch of years, and he's fantastic. And a couple of years ago, Minette Murphy joined the office. I've always had this office where, because it's small, because people get hugely experienced because they're on site, everyone does everything.
Yeah.
Except for cleaning the washrooms. That's my job as a principal. Everyone learns a lot and quickly. Like you get the kind of experience that you should get, and it's very hard for a small office. I've had lots of conversations with colleagues about this. It's hard for a small office to keep up with big offices' pay.
Yeah.
So people become experienced, and they become skilled, and they become really valuable. So there is this unfortunate turnover. I mean, I've maintained that I don't think there's anyone who's been at my office that I'm still not very close with, and I've understood why they go. I get it, and I've always offered to, if they needed a reference or anything, to do it, because it's part of the reality. I think, I mean, knock on wood, there's some wood here. Like Andrew and Minette, I think we all have the same mentality that I don't think I can't really speak for them because who knows, but I don't think they're big firm mentality people.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, as I get older, I would like to further encourage them to, because, I always say, I always joke. I mean, it's not a bit of a joke, but I always say if I get hit by a bus, right now the office is like I'm the one writing proposals, I'm
Right.
the one doing all this kind of stuff.
Right.
It's not a big office, so there's not really what's the term called succession.
Yep.
Because right now it's too much about me, and I try to encourage, and I will continue to take this opportunity while you're in an office to like start reaching out to
Right.
people in their own community, and and writing proposals, and learn to look for work, because it takes a long time to do.
And you got to get comfortable doing it.
Yeah, and you got to be comfortable doing it. You have to, yeah, and yeah, and so it's because I think I like, as I said, there really can be no succession plan for a small office. I don't think, like, it's not what is it? It's a few computers, right? Like,
And a lot, but all the projects before it, where do those people go? The client, where do those clients go? I mean, there's always opportunity for succession planning. It's not just a matter of what is it going to look like and when does that happen at some stage. What do you like to do outside of work?
Well, up until January, I was playing lacrosse.
Okay,
as like a beer league kind of thing, and then
that's fun.
it was, and because it was good. It was just it was I mean, it's a great sport, and I played it when I was very young.
Yep.
And then after when my oldest was born, at one point my parents bought him a little kid stick. And as I said, I didn't play hockey. I never played hockey, and I was kind of jealous of colleagues and stuff like that who were like playing in beer league hockey leagues and stuff like that, because you can't. I mean, I've tried, but you can't. It's hard to get into the game if you don't have like a lot of basic skills.
Yes.
Very hard.
Yes.
Lacrosse is not quite like that. I mean, you need your skills, but I think, you're not skating. And so I just Googled one day, Masters Lacrosse, and I went out, and I was horrible, and I'm still not. I was never any good, but I enjoyed it a huge amount. It's always good. But my in January, my knees started to go badly, and a huge amount of pain, which is I'm getting over it. But yeah, so I kind of missing that. And this is the first year that my wife and I have been without kids at home. They both, well, no, it's the second year now. The year before, they both ended up on the East Coast, and in different cities. One's in St. John's and one is in Halifax. So that was a bit of a change to get used to. But yeah, so but I work. I mean, I try to be quite balanced, actually.
Yeah.
Work is, I mean, we don't work overtime. Well, I do, but my staff does not work overtime, and we try. Once in a while we try to. Well, every year we try to do a nice, like, an interesting competition, and
internally or externally.
Internally, yeah. Like last year, was it? We competed. And it was the OAA, our professional association, had a landscape competition in which we were a runner-up. I think it was a great scheme. It was completely analog. We built, it was about a fast-growing forest, basically, around the thing. We built a model. We have a little model shop in the office.
That's fun.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. And at one point I said, like, I just thought, should we buy a 3D printer or a bandsaw? And I think we were all happy we got a bandsaw. But we built this beautiful model, but it was about, I forget how many, planting like 3,068 saplings, I think we called the project. But basically built, it was kind of like a grid of these little, the theory is there's a, what's his name? A Japanese arborist who developed this idea, but basically plant super, I can't remember his name, super thick saplings. You put a little, like you don't spend a lot of money on
Yeah.
big tree, little tiny saplings,
Yeah.
and you just put them in massively. And so we put this huge grid all over the place. And then basically the theory is that they grow and they compete and they'll weed them, like they'll sort themselves out. Like
Yeah.
some will thrive, some won't.
Yeah.
So we worked with Robert Wright, who was he was, I don't know if that time was, but he had been the dean at the architecture school. He's a landscape architect.
Yeah.
And then became
Yeah.
the dean at
He teaches there now.
he teaches there. Yeah, he taught there forever. And so we were with him, and he brought this. I mean, I wanted to. My thinking of the project when we started was, I just want to grow like a forest around the OA building. So let's just encase it with this forest. But when Robert came on board, he really, it became very interesting because he brought this his knowledge of these fast growing forests, technique of the whole the forest composition of and so all the planting became all quite scientific and kind of thoughtful. But we built this model. It's basswood, but the ground we used plasticine, and we shot it with my friend Ian Robbins. I mentioned with my first friend here in Toronto. He photographed it. But we built this model in 3 times. So once with the little saplings, which were like little wire, and then we had under 10 years, and then 25 years of this growth. We built all the trees, or we modeled all the trees with hamster bedding and wire. We used, I forget what it was, like coils and coils of wire. Like, it's quite impressive how much. And then we photographed the thing. Like, Eden set up this big bridge, and we photographed it over 3 days. So every day we had to rebuild the model.
It's pretty cool.
It was very cool, and we came close. But no cigars on that one. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, you do these things, and I mean, of course, you do it to win, but I think they're also a great opportunity for intellectual exercise.
For sure. Well, and some team building and some substantial deep thinking on how do you come up with something that's going to be kind of a differentiator
and think differently than we did one year. We did over a weekend one of the Winnipeg warming hut competitions, which I got a phone call one day and saying, "This is Peter Hargrave. You guys won." And he says, and I don't really remember. I don't really remember saying it, but he said the first thing I said was, "Oh shit," or something like that, because it's one of those things that you have to build.
Of course.
So this was a cool project where I mean, we literally had done it over the weekend. A colleague who worked at the office, a couple of them said, I was trying to model it, and they said they shooed me away, and they did these incredible renderings of it, and it was all very playful. But it was basically a big culvert, like a big steel culvert, and with other tubes coming in, and they were all. I don't know if I'm older than you, but there was a cartoon like on the Bugs Bunny hour that used to come on Sunday. There was there's this one very funny one that's sort of off, about this inventor invents a portable hole.
I know this.
You know that one?
Yeah.
So they were just taking exactly. So it was all based on that.
Yeah.
That's what we call it. But the project was these culverts, and but they were colorful holes. And so there's this one big culvert, which was the warming hut proper, but the smaller ones coming out with highly painted colors on the inside, and then all covered with snow. So the only thing you would see on the top.
I saw this.
Yeah.
I saw this on your website.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was this. And so we won this competition. Peter Hargrave, who's an incredible architect and person in Winnipeg, he calls and he says, I had this kind of a really reaction to it. And I think just fear came out of this, like, how are we going to pull this off? Because I don't know how much a culvert, there's a set cost to build this thing and all this kind of stuff, and you're kind of responsible for it. And I thought, but I immediately got off the phone and I Googled culverts in Canada.
Yeah.
And what comes up was Canada culvert. which is a huge company in Winnipeg. And they ended up being, they paid for everything and provided all this amazing technical, like they have a plant here that outside of the automotive industry, because they have this Bellum steel, like they do all these steel buildings, they do those farm feeder things and stuff. They're the largest steel user outside of the car industry in Canada. So it's like, and so they were fantastic. So we went to Waterloo. They had this incredible production shop with robots producing. Like it was amazing.
Question for you: can we feature this as one of the projects?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so for those listening, if you head over to our Instagram, you'll see on Instagram the projects that we feature on the people that come on the podcast. You go over and you'll be able to actually see what Kevin here is describing.
So they paid for this. I think they also became a bit of a sponsor for the shop. Like and then the amazing thing, it was being fabricated in Winnipeg, and this is another story of craftsmanship. So this is a big round tube, and there's other tubes coming out at weird angles into it. So cutting these holes within, like, these intersecting, do it on a computer is kind of easy because you just go through and But this is in wrinkly tin, like metal, with other wrinkly metal things going in. And I get to Winnipeg because it's a big festivity for a week, a lot of fun. And these guys, it was a father and son who worked in the shop, but their workmanship was so amazing. I asked them how he cut it, the holes, and just plasma cutters and all this kind of stuff. When it got shipped from the shop to the Forks where this event occurs, and before it got put out onto the river, it was just standing in the middle of this parking lot, basically. But the one guy, he stayed there all night because he didn't want anything to happen to it. He was so,
it's like a passion project. Yeah,
these guys, like, usually these culverts go deep in the ground, no one sees them. He had this huge pride of. It was so cool. Like the thing without the snow on it is like so wacky and kind of cool. But they were, and then all, like, as I said, all the tubes are kind of painted inside different colors. So when you're looking at when it's buried, it's just these like colored holes, like a red hole and whatever. One of them is pink, and I get this phone call from them, and they're saying, we looked at this pink, it's not the right one. It's not the right pink. I think this is the right color you should use. So they were like they were all like so into it. And it was quite fantastic. And then, this is one of those pieces of architecture that, if you worry a lot, you might not do, because, you'll see pictures on the website of, what they do. People so the skating goes down the river. Like I think it's the longest natural skating thing in the world, and it's full of snow. And kids, people climb up the snow bank, and they kind of scooch down these holes into the main part, and it's all crazy. And that was a really interesting project because we talked about playfulness earlier, but that was really the first thing that I just realized how important being a little bit lighter is, and it was fun. They put out the next.
It's a really nice way to kind of like encapsulate what all of this has been. I want to say thank you to Kevin. It's been amazing chatting with you and hearing the stories.
Oh, it's been fun having a conversation.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure hearing this, and this, like, the circular nature of the story, of the playfulness, and talking about like the TDSB, and then all of a sudden working that into an incredible project that becomes that playful nature. I appreciate you taking the time to come and chat and talk about the evolution of the career and the practice. For those, again, if you're listening, you can head over to Instagram. You'll be able to take a look at the work that Kevin's been putting out over the years. I, again, appreciate you doing this with me.
That was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.